The Nice House on the Lake, issue number 3. James Tynion continues to have an amazing run when it comes to his independent works, and I think this issue in particular for this book really surprised me. First off, I'm still amazed this is from DC, just because it's so different than everything else they're working on. Even their more Hill House stuff. How did this get to Black Label? That is just amazing. He's got some connections there, and I'm just really impressed with it. So, this issue, I think for the entirety of this run so far, this might be my favorite one. And I think Sam might be my favorite character. So, bearing the lead a little bit here, each issue so far is focused on a different character. I think this one is the reporter, if I'm not mistaken. Sam is the reporter. That's probably it. He's kind of the one investigating things a little bit more than other people, which leads me to believe he's the reporter. I can't tell just because his symbol looks like the question mark, and I'm assuming that's the reporter symbol. But I like Sam a lot. This character, I think, is, of all of them, a really good choice for your kind of middle of the story character, because he just adds something else to the story that I don't think the first two characters did. They're more complicit. He's just on a different level of what he's doing in this story, which I really enjoy. So again, we open up in I'm assuming the ruins of the old world, and we see Sam on the boat, and he's just kind of I didn't want any of this. I never asked for any of this, but here I am. And we see in the past that he was talking to Walter, and Walter's telling him, can you watch our friends to make sure they're okay? And you see that Sam and Walter kind of have that closer connection. What I like about this stuff in the past too, some of you kids might not know this, but Sam is operating in a dark room, and they use the red lighting. I think that's a great use of the way, because in film and stuff, you portray a dark room with harsh red colors. So I think that's a really cool thing to see. Sam again is the one that kind of looks the most, he kind of resembles Walter the most in terms of the glasses and the haircut. So I think maybe there's some connection to maybe Walter has a special connection to Sam in that regard, but we'll have to wait and see if that means anything throughout this book. But you just see Walter is trusting Sam a little bit more than some of the other ones. So we get an email chain where we see that Sam doesn't really want to go to the lake, but Walter's kind of getting him to. He can still work while he's there, but it's when are we going to get an opportunity like this again to see everybody? And they're going to do it. They're going to go. Arturo is coming, which I believe is his boyfriend at this time. So we're at the lake, and we see that everybody is kind of getting complicit and understanding the situation. We're on day 4, but Sam isn't. He wakes up and he's not happy. We see people in the breakfast room. They're having breakfast. They're we should go watch a movie. We'll have a chill, have a couple beers. And as everyone's just kind of relaxing themselves to this idea in a weird way, we see that Sam is still the one are you serious? Are you seriously thinking we can just chill out, drink beers on a boat, and watch Disney movies? He's just this situation is too crazy. I don't think you people understand what's going on. Again, Sam is a really fascinating character. I like him, I think, the most out of everybody we've seen so far. We'll see where his story continues going on, but he just can't be comfortable in this situation, and he wants to track and just figure out what's actually going on here. So he's trying to figure out what the border is. He touches the wall, it stings him. We see Walter watching him from the shadows, and as everybody is just kind of having fun and relaxing in the water, they're drinking beer on the boat. We see Sam is walking the edge of the entire complex, just figuring out where it begins and where it ends, how far they can go. So he walks into certain walls, he's measuring them with leaves and sticks and everything to figure out what it is he's doing. He thinks he finds something interesting where he kind of scrapes the side of a building in this darkness. So he comes back to the room. He's talking to Arturo, and he's I'm going to wear your boots because I think I found something. I need you just to trust me on this. I'm going to go investigate something. Just relax. I'll be okay. And we see that Arturo kind of wants to go with him because he's you haven't been eating. You have to take care of yourself. Even if the situation sucks, you have to understand that your health is important. But Sam is just dude, there's a thing outside that shows us what's happening to the rest of the world, and we're supposed to be stuck in here and okay with it. This is a prison. We are in a prison. It's a nice prison on a lake, but it's a prison nonetheless, and we're supposed to act like it's not the end of the world when it is. So he leaves Arturo, and he's just I'm going to go look for stuff. You can stay and relax. I'll let you know if I have any troubles. I have a flare gun. I will shoot it if something goes wrong. and he's gonna go explore some stuff. So there's a lot of interesting pages that we get here, and Tynan's been playing with this idea a lot in some of his like less Batman focused works, where it's just like, let's do some interesting stuff with the comic book format. So we're looking at Sam's notebook. He's like, where are these animals? There's some birds in here, interesting stuff. He finds like this like greenhouse that could be a place for shelter. There's some weird shapes all around. We realize that he's finding these shapes across like the entire forest floor. Like as he's walking, like these same shapes that you touch them, you can see these things. But basically these ones, if you touch, you don't see the pain. Like you don't see your life and how it like broke, which is kind of an interesting thing to play with. As he's just walking around, he finds like this weird staircase with all these like weird symbols around it. So he walks up the staircase and he finds like this big looking black filled out monolith looking building. And he's just like, this is weird. What is going on here? And he's just investigating everything. He's looking at all the symbols. He sees like a drawing of the house on the ground and like the lake nearby and like the weird monolith thing on the ground. See how far he's walked. And he's starting to connect it all together in like the shape of a hexagon, because it's like a hexagon around everything. That's kind of interesting to see. But as he's figuring this out, he's still having his doubts about it. And he's like, I don't know what any of this means. What am I doing with my time? And he kind of like goes to like what he assumes is like the door of this weird complex. He's just banging on it like, Walter, I know you're in there. I know you can hear me. What is this all about? Is this some like weird puzzle that you're meant to keep me busy because you're giving everybody the things that they want, whether it's relaxation or a puzzle somehow leading to like the end of the world, and if I solve this, I'll connect everything? Is this really it? Is this really all you did for me? Is this really what we're doing here? And he's just kind of like breaking down this idea that like even if this does mean something, doesn't mean anything. And I think that's such a great idea to play with, because he's smart enough to know, even if I solve whatever this is, how is anything going to change? You know, this could be like the trap set up to keep me here forever. If I solve it, I can get out. But what's the point of getting out if there's nothing left to get out to? So we see him just kind of like breaking down on the side, and like, this is it. This is all of it. He just knew this is why he was here, and he realized like he never even wanted to come here in the first place. But Walter was so insistent that he showed up. Now this is what he got. So he kind of wishes he was outside and he was dead like the rest of them. I think that is really cool stuff. I like this stuff with Walter. I think Walter's a really interesting character that we're just setting up. He's something else. And when it comes to Sam here, Sam is playing into this a different way than a lot of people. Instead of like investigating everything, he slowly realized like, oh, these things were built so we'd want to stay. It's still a prison, it's just got toys for us to play with. And I think that is a really cool idea. So he shoots off his flare gun for people to come pick him up. And as he's standing in the back, we see that somebody from his past is being trapped there by Walter. It's Reg, and Reg is like this guy he kind of had like a fling with in college. And we see Reg is being kidnapped by Walter. What that has to do with the rest of the story, we don't really know, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. And I'm like, okay, so is Walter doing this with another group of friends? Is that what the building's for? Is that like their house on the lake? Interesting. So eventually Arturo and some of the others come to find Sam. They pick him up and he's like, did you find what you're looking for? And it's like, I found all I was going to find. So he's not playing the game anymore. Sam is done. He's just going to figure out his next step. And I think that's a really cool place to end this book. You're giving Sam a lot to do here. I think more so than some of the other people, because we just see that he has a certain relationship with Walter that's a little different than the rest of them. But I know that's probably the case for every single character. But this is just like, he is the reporter. He's going to investigate. He's looking at all this stuff. He's figuring out the clues, and he's smart enough to know none of it has any meaning. And I think that's really cool, and there's just something really interesting about that flow. The artwork, again, looks very cool. All the characters are becoming very distinctive, that you can tell them apart. I think more so because we're getting comfortable with them now. That's a really cool thing to see. And this book just continues to impress me. It's like going into a bunch of interesting directions that don't always like make sense, but I think it's coming together in a beautiful story that I'm really enjoying. And I'm just super impressed that in 2021... we can have a creator-owned book take this many opportunities from a big company like DC is making this, and it doesn't have to be anything else than just a creator-owned book doing its story. I think that is incredibly cool, incredibly fun, and Sam, so far, has been my favorite character of this run. I like it. This book was really intense. I can't wait to read more. This has been really good. So the Nice House on the Lake issue number 3, I am going to give an 8 out of 10. Now, thank you guys for watching this review. Be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. As always, you can check me out on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have fun. Stay safe. Good luck.